Welcome back to the Carpentry Australia podcast. I'm here today with the fantastic Mark from MCAP Carpentry. Do you want to do a little bit of intro, mate?
Yeah, g'day mate. Yeah, I'm Mark from MCAP Carpentry. We commercial carpentry service here in Melbourne. Purely commercial fit out, commercial carpentry.
And where did it all start, mate?
Business started just after June 2020. Was made redundant from a position I had and decided to start MCAP.
Okay, and when did you get qualified? Like how long have you been an actual chippy for?
A few years now, yeah, a few years. Straight after high school, so it was, maybe 18 years ago.
Okay, yeah.
A little while ago.
A little bit of skin in the game.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
And have you always been in commercial, or was it?
Yeah, most of it, yeah. Did start my apprenticeship doing house renos and stuff, but yeah, predominantly all of it's been commercial building.
What do you think the sort of the biggest differences are between, like a resi carpenter and someone that works in commercial full time?
We probably get a lot more like paperwork, more red tape and things like that to work through. It's not as much jump in and get it done. I think we probably do a lot of building inductions, a lot of site inductions, things like that. I think we probably...
And how do you look after all the safety side of things as well? Do you use any apps, or do you have any other sort of things in place, or are these done by the builders that you're sort of...
We would have to always supply like our own swims. Yeah, we certainly have our own swims, and then each builder would have their own, safety procedures, or they might have a platform that we need to sign on to. So they can vary from builder to builder.
Okay. And how many builders do you reckon you've got sort of in your pipeline at the moment? Is there a few that you go to all the time, or like...
Yeah, there's probably half a dozen, 6 to 8 guys, builders that we work for. They keep us pretty busy.
How big's the team?
My team's 3 tradesmen, 2 carpenters, plasterer, and then we've got a couple of guys to help us out with estimating and accounting and stuff like that.
Okay. And then when the workload's bigger, do you have to bring in subbies, or?
We've got a good team of subcontractors that come in and help us out. Okay. So a pretty broad team of subbies.
And do you think commercial is a little bit of its own sort of niche? Because obviously there's a lot of commercial carpentry that happens, but I think through CA we're predominantly a residential carpenter sort of business, and that's sort of where we've had a lot of our members. But I see more and more commercial chippies coming through.
Yep. Yeah, to a certain degree it's its own niche, but the skills I still think are like super transferable. I mean, a carpenter's a carpenter. So I think there's aspects of it. Most aspects I think actually are transferable, but I suppose the way the day-to-day sites of, commercial sites can run can be pretty different to a residential site.
And what do you think makes a good carpenter?
I think a good carpenter, just that they take their time, there's a new product, they've read the install guide, they've asked questions about the product, they've got their head around it. They don't just dive straight in and take 4 or 5 steps forward, but then have to pretty quickly take a step backwards, maybe to,
retrace themselves.
Retrace, but just I think just, being prepared and understanding what you're doing and, asking questions if you don't know.
And what about, so there's good carpenters and then there's good builders. Like, what do you think sort of makes a good builder, someone that you want to keep going back to?
Yeah, again, it would be organisation. I think organisation, communication from builders is key. When they tell you that it's ready to go and you show up to site and, it's clearly not ready, that sort of stuff. I think, the better builders communicate well.
Okay.
I think that makes a big difference.
Yeah. I've always been interested to see sort of how blokes sort of ramp up their team. So you said that you've got a couple of tradesmen, you've got a few other guys that sort of help within the team.
Yep.
How did you sort of pick and choose what you needed at which time, and how does someone know when it's time to grow?
Say if I could talk about when you've actually got a project on, generally when you're in the middle of a project, you'd be looking at the program. So the builders would provide programs, you'd look at the program, you'd be able to see how much work we need to do in the next month, 2 months to meet programs. So then I can look at, calling in subcontractors, or, then we can start making arrangements, making phone calls, starting to tee guys up that, we're going to be ready for, X amount of guys in, a week's time, something like that. So that's generally, again, it's just planning, I think, just...
What about for yourself? So you said that the business started in 2020. So how did you first start it? Was it just you, and then you sort of...
It was just me. It was me wearing, every hat. I remember that one of the so I still work for this builder today, but we quoted a job and won it, and I had to carry all this plasterboard upstairs, and I just missed it. I didn't think about it. So as soon as that point happened, I was exhausted, I was spent, and as soon as that happened, I actually got a phone call from apprenticeships. They were doing like school-based apprenticeships. It was a government incentive. They called me. I was puffing and panting from carrying all this plaster up the stairs. I said, yes, I'll have an apprentice. So that's how the first hire happened. Was I'd sort of underestimated how hard it would be to do this job by myself. Pretty quickly we got the guy on, and that's how the first one happened. And it's been, you know, it's been where we've hired when we've needed to. Like, it's been too busy and we haven't been able to keep up with it, then we've hired. So that's generally how that's sort of come about for us.
And have you got a couple of apprentices at the moment? Or?
We don't, no. So it hasn't sort of worked out for us with that, but we do have a couple of great, you know, tradesmen, full-time tradesmen, unqualified tradesmen.
What do you think goes wrong with apprentices, you know, in your own experience or with stuff you've seen?
It's just my experience that maybe what we do commercial fit-out wise isn't what a 17 or an 18 or an apprentice thinks they're going to be doing as a carpenter. Like, I think a lot of younger guys would think that apprentices are standing up roof frames or, you know, wall frames. Everyone's outside, you know.
Shirtless.
All that sort of stuff. And it's very different when you can sometimes come into these office spaces with us. Like, it's very different. So that might not be for everybody. So that's probably been what I've found with apprentices. They might have been advised by an uncle or a dad or, you know, someone like that hey, go and learn how to build a house first and then come and do the commercial stuff second. Which is probably I could understand that as well.
And you said you did start in resi yourself as well, like your apprenticeship and stuff.
We did renovations and extensions and stuff like that, but pretty quickly moved into commercial, and I've always enjoyed it. I've always liked it.
That's good. And plenty of work in the pipeline, like you keep yourself quite busy.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we stay relatively busy. We have ups and downs, like all business owners. It can be, you know, it's tough. You feel like you've got to knock back work sometimes, or we've got so much in, you worry, how are we going to get this done? And then at the end of it, sometimes I think, geez, we need more work here to keep the boys going. So I don't know how to get that to be consistent. I haven't worked that out, but that's
it's not a perfect formula.
No,
it's not a one size fits all for you know, for each business, because depending on how quick your guys are and how you get through the projects that you've got at hand, it's tough to sort of judge exactly where you're at. Look, there's other members that I've spoken to, and they're not in commercial carpentry, so it might be a bit different, but they like to be 3 months, 4 months, 6 months planned, you know, and they've even got a schedule that they know every week, hey, I'm going to be in Friday and at the end of November, we're actually going to be framing this job. And it's like, how are you that organised? And that's just sort of how they like to do it. But it's hard. I think it's hard to actually get to that level. That's a good pipeline of work to have, for sure. That's very organised. What about a job that's gone completely, apart from when you were carrying these plasterboards up the stairs and thinking, what have I done with myself? Have you had any other jobs that went really pear-shaped, but then there was a good result that came out of it? I've unquoted jobs before I've started. I've certainly done that. That's a hard lesson to learn. Quoted an office for a painting company, actually, for a builder, and priced up the ceiling. And when I got there and I looked up at it and I thought, there's no way. Look, so I backed through it. I think I just put a 0 in the wrong place, to be honest. I just, had no process on checking things, you know, just sort of threw the quote out there and and then won it? Won it, obviously. Won it because I was miles cheaper than everyone else. And but we did the job. You know, I still do get work off that builder, so it wasn't like a total dead end. I never told him that I made that mistake. We just did it, and you know. Sometimes I think that's something we try to teach our blokes, because one question that I get through the members a lot is, how do I make sure I'm not losing money when I'm starting out, and how do I quote correctly? And you can sort of give all the tips and tricks, and you can try and walk them through the process. But I think a lot of people, and you know, if everyone that I've spoken to has made mistakes, you know, and that's how you're going to do a job where it's going to cost you a little bit of money because you've forgotten to add skirts onto your quote, or whatever it might have been. I know the Limitless boys who do a lot of work with us, they had a commercial job when they first started out, and he forgot to quote up a kilometre of skirting that needed to be done.
Yeah.
And that was included in the quote, but he completely forgot about the labour that was going to be involved in actually doing it.
Yep.
And sure enough, it was very costly, and it was a big mistake. But like you said, they've still got work with this builder to this day.
Yeah.
And they've made plenty of money on the other jobs that they've been able to put through. And it's a good lesson to sort of learn early on.
They're hard lessons to learn. When it's coming out of your pocket, you learn them pretty quick.
Yeah.
But then you do take the time, like the next quote, you know, I've got to work on that procedure now. Like, to not let that
What procedures have you put in place? Like, is there a certain method that you like to follow?
Yeah, so
keep yourself out of trouble?
Yep, I try not to do quotes like in the middle of the night after you've been on the tools all day. That's a good way to make a mistake.
Yeah.
So yeah, try to keep that sort of just during, business hours and just work on it then. I know it's not perfect. It doesn't always work because, we've all got things to do and, you have to be on site sometimes. But yeah, just double checking everything. So we've probably spent a bit of time in that process on how we get the plans, we quote them, templates, pricing, all that sort of stuff, to how it looks, when we submit it. So we spend a bit of time working on that. So
I've seen, this is maybe it's a new age thing or something that I hadn't really seen too much, but a lot of people that I'm seeing nowadays, when they do their quotes or tenders, they tend to include like quite a bit of imagery, and they do it almost like a bit of like a PowerPoint, almost, where they sort of showcase the pricing for this part of the job and this part of the job, and giving you a little bit of a visual. And that's been another way that people have been able to win work. Do you have any kind of specialised stuff when it comes to quoting, or is it really just sort of laying out what needs to be done? Yeah,
it's probably just laying out what we need to do, making sure like that our square metres, lineal metres, that they're there on display, so the builders can check them with theirs, make sure we haven't, really just being clear what we've allowed for. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what I do now is go through with the estimator. Like, we'll actually spend time now going through every job start to finish. Like, we share the screens with each other and start talking through, well, take me through this room, did you get that bit of skirting there? Like, we actually visually do that as well, as like another fail safe to make sure we're not missing things.
Yeah.
Because once it is submitted, that's, you sort of got to stand by it sometimes.
You can't.
You do have that moment when you win them and you go, oh, geez, if I missed something here, I was cheaper. But if you've got your processes and you're making sure, double checking, then, you're confident that you can,
What advice would you give to, a young guy that wants to start their own business in carpentry, whether it's resi or commercial? Like, what's something you'd want to instill in them early that'll help them, stay in business 2, 3, 10 years down the track?
Yeah.
Or if you were to reverse it, and go back and talk to yourself, what's something you would instill in yourself from the very beginning?
Like, I think it's just understanding the scope. It's nearly like you asked what makes a good tradesman, like taking your time understanding the job. Like, as a businessman too, as a business owner, you need to understand the scope too. So make sure you're speaking with builders, understanding the scope, like exactly what you're quoting, what they're expecting. Really, asking a lot of questions and understanding what the scope is, I think is a big one. Yeah, because builders can have their own scope or their own expectations, and you put a price in, but you haven't excluded or included, like, you can come unstuck pretty quick. So it really is just understanding the scope of works or the job.
The other thing that I'm curious about is, you've been a member with Carpentry Australia for quite some time. You signed up probably, I think it was a couple of years after we first started, and you said it was when you sort of created your Instagram profile, and that's when it all kicked off. So what's that been like for you over the years, and why did you want to be a part of Carpentry Australia?
Yeah, so I think I came across Carpentry Australia when I first signed up, like got an Instagram profile and signed up then. I just liked the idea of someone supporting carpenters, because I don't think there was anything, there wasn't any support for a carpenter. I think there's bodies that support plumbers and electricians, and then registered builders have support, but there was no one supporting carpenters. So I'm more than happy to be part of that, and I thought that was a great initiative, good idea.
Yeah, of course. And you're right, there isn't anyone out there that's doing sort of what we do. And the whole sort of our whole ethos is really around supporting the carpenter, supporting the apprentice, the carpenter, and then the carpenter builder, and really trying to just get longevity out of the trade. Because I think we came up with a new tagline at the start of 2025, which was keeping the hammer swinging for longer.
Yeah.
And that's really what we're trying to live to, is because there's so many apprentices that will drop out of their apprenticeship, or there's blokes that will go qualified and they might subby for a little bit and they get a little bit down on their luck or a little bit depressed with the trade. And it's such a good skill to have, and there is so much opportunity. And I think it's just for us to be able to provide that kind of support system to blokes like yourself and other, you know, commercial and resi carpenters all over Australia.
Yeah,
it's needed, you know.
I think it's the best skill set out of all the trades to have what we do, and it's probably undervalued. So I think, you know, for plumbers, electricians, and other trades, service trades, they move into some licensing, and then, you know, they don't need to work. They don't need builders to do their job. They can actually go and do a job. Whereas carpenters, like, we either always need to work under a builder, or the progression for us then, I think, is to become a builder. But that's maybe not the right fit for everybody. And if you want to be a carpenter and that's what you want to be, then I think you need to be to have support from Carpentry Australia and things like that. It's, well worth it. Yeah.
And for yourself, did you ever have you got your building license, or did you ever think about getting it?
No, I'm not a builder, a carpenter. I've done the certificate 4 diploma and things like that. I did that years ago. I think I probably did that like maybe 10 years ago. So it was a while ago. I did them, and I never acted on it. I just didn't do it, to be fair. So it is something that I've always, you know, wanted to do. But
we got plenty of experience, so you probably wouldn't have any trouble getting through the process.
I think just the way, like, where we sit in business, like, we work for commercial builders. So for me to be a builder, it might be a change of business model for me. So, but it's certainly something that, you know.
Do you come from a family of builders, or is there anyone? Where does the love for the trade sort of come from?
I'm not sure. Actually, it's a good question. I mean, I enjoyed woodwork at school and things like that. I've always just enjoyed. You know, I think I did work experience. I must have been 15 or 16 or something. With, you know, a mate of mine. He's, you know, had a house extension. I can remember working with a builder then, but maybe just always helping your dad out in the backyard. You know, doing all that sort of stuff. But
tinkering around.
Stuff like that. But I've always enjoyed it, like, you know, whether building and seeing a result at the end of the day. I think I've always enjoyed doing that sort of stuff.
And do you have a family yourself?
Or? Got 3 kids.
3 kids?
Getting pretty busy.
You're a busy man.
So
boys, girls, what?
What do we have? We've got a daughter, son, and daughter. So I've got 7, 5, and 2.
Wow.
So
it'll be a madhouse.
It keeps us pretty busy, mate.
How do you juggle, you know, obviously being a dad and looking after the kids and trying to look after your partner as well? Like, how do you juggle that as a business owner?
To be fair, my partner Steph does like a lot of heavy lifting, like really does do a lot of it. And I always take the opportunity if you know, you're at home on the computer and I can pick one of the kids up from daycare or kinder or school, I always take that opportunity, just that half an hour to go and do it. And if it puts a little bit of time on the back end of the day, then so be it. But try to make the most of it, you know, when we can.
No, I love it. Yeah. And you said that you're local to sort of where we are here. Did you grow up in the area?
Yep. Yeah.
Very familiar.
Yeah, very familiar with the eastern suburbs of Melbourne.
Yeah.
Very familiar. Yeah.
And do you pivot a little bit, but do you like where building's going at the moment, or are you hopeful for the sort of future of commercial carpentry as well?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think I'd be pretty glass half full about our trade at the moment. I think so. Yeah, I mean, I think there's the cost of living across the board's, you know, probably pretty high for everyone, like not just tradesmen, but, you know, everybody. It is, and that's probably reflected in like the price of materials and labour and things like that. So I still think it's, you know, in relatively good shape. You know, I think so. Yeah.
What do you think is going to change? Do you see anything happening in the next few years that might be completely different for, you know, your business or for carpentry as a whole? What about AI and all of these? Because there's a lot of people that are, I guess, a bit afraid of the technology that's coming through. And they're not necessarily embracing it. Because even for yourself, like there might be some ways in the future where you can get a quote out you know, like that,
Yeah.
where you're not really going to need to spend that much time on the computer. You know, you can spend more time with the family. And have you tried any of these new products?
I've certainly looked at it, and I've discussed with some other guys, say commercial fit out guys, about AI, using that for quoting. I still think there's a lot that we make assumptions for when we price jobs, whether plans aren't like totally detailed, or you know, whether or not AI would pick up those assumptions.
Yeah.
But I'd certainly support that. Certainly support that. Anything that gets us spending more time doing, you know,
doing what we want to be
doing instead of sitting in front of a computer quoting, because that probably takes up the biggest part of, you know, your day as a business owner, carpentry business owner, quoting jobs, looking over jobs. That's a huge part of it.
You just keep quoting as well. Like, you don't ever really stop that process?
I don't think you can stop it. Every time we stop it, I feel like the work nearly like turns the tap off a little bit. Yeah, I think you always need to be your hat in the ring for jobs. And I think you get a good feel if you're going to win a job or not, or you know, you're talking to builders and you know, they tell you what's in the pipeline, or they might even decided that, you know, they might know that they might award it to you or not, depending on if the price is right. But I think you always need to be quoting jobs. Like we certainly are. That's
ABQ, always be quoting.
That's one thing that we're always doing is quoting jobs. Even if I feel like the tenders come through to us and, you know, realistically we're probably not going to get it, I'd still price it up.
Okay. It's good practice as well.
Yeah, it's just good to have that relationship, because sometimes I felt like we'd probably been awarded jobs because we'd quoted so many things, and the feedback was, you know, well, thanks for supporting us with all these quotes, we're going to award you a job. So I think it has worked for us.
So it works in the relationship space too.
Because it's like one less thing. Well, I suppose they have multiple, you know, carpentry crews quoting jobs, but you know, if your hat's always in the ring, they're seeing your name come through a fair bit, then I think it does help.
What's a job or a project that you've been like really proud of? You know, like what's a really cool commercial job that you've done that you remember?
Oh, we've been into some cool places, So we do get into some pretty cool places. Done a couple of army bases.
Okay.
That were
up in Popunka, or like where?
No, in the eastern suburbs.
Eastern
suburbs of Melbourne. So you get into some really cool places. Like you wouldn't see the inside of an army base very often. So it's pretty cool just to see facilities, what they've got there, and stuff like that. So they're cool ones. Yeah. And
what about before the end of the year? Like, have you got anything that you're trying to tidy up before Christmas time? I know that it becomes a bit mad.
Yeah.
You know, October turns into November.
We're looking pretty good. So I think we've got some steady work on till the end of the year, and then into next year. So I think the work should just flow pretty nicely. So for the end of the year, which is very handy to have. The last couple of years we've been lucky in that sense, where we've had projects span over December and January, which can get a bit hectic. Yeah. So to have the projects go over the 2 months, have you break in between Christmas and come back to the projects, that's one less headache to worry about. And do you go away over the Christmas period? Or? Yeah. Always try to make the most of it, with the family. So try to go to a different spot,
Go camping or something?
So go take the kids camping and take them away. So I think we're heading up to Merimbula this year. Oh, perfect. Which will be nice. That'd be really nice. Nice big drive with 3 kids. That'll test us out. That's it. Just take the second car. And I know. I'll sit in the second car. I love it. I've got family members that go up to Merimbula to camp, so it's a nice spot. Yeah, beautiful spot. What about, like, since because you've been in the trade for so long, like you've got your 40th coming up next month? It is. That's it. Bloody hell. It sneaks up on you. Yeah. So I want to know what keeps you so passionate after, so many years in the trade. You finished your high school, you got into the trade, and, it's 20 years later. Like, what drives you to sort of stay within that space? I think, what I do commercially, like we do see a lot of, cool projects, whether places that we end up, I was just saying, we've ended up in army bases, we end up in airport hangars, we see all sorts of things. So the places where we work are a little different, and even like, let's say, some of the products that we might get to work with, we get certain features, part of the jobs, and they're really one-offs. Like we might just do them once time and we'll never do them again. So it's always different. Yeah. Whatever we're building can be always different, and it tends to be, we get things that are a little out of the box as well. Okay. Yeah. that we have to get our heads around, and they're always cool to be part of. Like, how are we going to build this? How are we going to, how's this going to go together?
Do you think you need to be a little bit creative to be a carpenter? And
I think it helps. Yeah, for sure. If you can, be creative. It certainly helps. Yeah.
So you can sort of, were you always a bit of a visual learner? Like, did you learn like by doing?
Yep.
Or, you know?
Yeah, always visually, and I always enjoyed like art and things like that as well when I was at school. So I think a little bit more creative and can sort of see the end process. I can see the end result and then try to work backwards. But it is a skill set as well. I think carpentry coming back to a pretty good skill set of being able to, understand how something goes together or see a finished product and then pull it apart. And, that's the process, I suppose, pulling it apart, and that's the process of how it's going to go together.
I think this is something that I'm interested in because I'm not, I know a lot about carpenters and carpentry, but I'm not a carpenter myself. I did concreting for 4 months and I was completely useless. So I haven't picked up a barrow since. But I'm always interested about the math side of carpentry and sort of working out your measurements and stuff. What's different in commercial? Is it really just transferable, or is there more intricate stuff that happens in a fit out than like, if you're trying to put up stick frames?
I feel like some of our set outs could be pretty involved. So we would set out like the whole ceiling or a whole section, and then other trades would use that as well. So we would set out where feature panels would go, where plaster margins would go, and then we would have, say, fire sprinklers come in, and then they'd work out where the sprinklers are going to go. They'd work out where, sparkies will work out where lights are going to go, speakers are going to go. So everyone uses our set outs. And so we might even like set that out on the ground, like set out, some plywood and flick all the lines out and set it all out for everybody so we can visually see it on the floor, and they transfer it up into the ceiling space.
So you're almost like the mastermind behind sort of what actually takes place.
Because I think if it's, I think it comes back to like communication and planning, and if those things are done well from the start, I mean, every trade benefits, and, we're only building it once. It looks like it works on the ground. We've set it all out, fingers crossed. And I think it's just come back to just being organised and...
Okay. Longevity within the trade and sort of, I guess, the culture. Like, do you do anything for your team in like a culture sense? Do you
we do.
Do lunches?
We do. We do quite a few lunches. Always, if I can, we do a site visit in the city. I'll just take the guys to a food court or something like that, and we have lunch together. Or at the end of the projects, with the same thing, we might go to a hotel, pub somewhere, and have lunch with the guys. So I'm always try to
Any memorable sort of end of year stuff that you've done as well? You've gone paintballing or done?
Look, to be fair, the last couple of years we've actually had work on in schools over that period. So it's been a little quiet in the end of year celebrations because the guys have been on site working. But we've still enjoyed those jobs. Say more of like a end of January, start of February. Celebrated then.
Of course, when it's warm.
At the end of the job, whether it's a lunch or something like that, always try to celebrate and, look after the guys where we can.
Of course. I think it's important that you just give back, even if it's every now and again. It instills, I guess that trust between sort of you and your team as well. You need to look after them. The guys are, they're a great team what we have. So always try to look after them where we can. And with your team and sort of with your culture building and stuff as well, do you do any other sort of future learning, or do you like to go to any expos, or do you just do all of it yourself?
We haven't sort of done any like real training or any expos or anything like that, but I do speak to the guys, always, make sure they're comfortable, they understand what's going on. If the jobs are bigger and they're going to be more full on, I just support them the best that I can and make sure they're, that they're feeling good and like their mental health's good, because the job can get stressful and it can get pretty full on when you're at, you're at the coalface of it. So I just try to support the guys the best they can and always be there, answer the phone for them when they ring, talk them through the questions, or we might just need to stop for 10 minutes and, talk about, what the problems are on site, or, like it might be, it can get overwhelming. They feel like you're not going to meet the deadline, but we just talk it through or talk about the next job, and, you know.
What do you think some of the biggest problems are that, you know, chippies face? Is it deadlines? Is it just overall work stress?
Oh, I could say for us, sometimes it can be the deadlines. Sometimes it can be the programs can be pretty full on. Mm-hmm. Like it can be daunting to pull apart, say, the office of a school or the bathroom of a school, and then you've got to put it back together in, you know, 3 weeks. So that can be, you can get a week into that and think there's no way I'm going to finish this. So deadlines can certainly be, very stressful. Mm. Yeah, certainly for us.
Have you ever done any community work or any jobs, even just for family, where you've sort of looked after them a little bit and, you know, done up their backyard, or, you know, I guess being the carpenter in the family, you probably get asked all the time.
Yeah, we do. Yeah. And I think, some of the guys are, you know, I would say, just be honest with them and say, hey, this is a real favour for me. Like if we can, you know, go and do this, so we're not going to be doing a commercial fit out, but if we can go and, you know, help someone out, help a family member out, we certainly do it. Yeah, where we can. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I love it. I actually wanted to ask you, because you've been doing it for so long and because your business has been running, so before MCAP, so were you on wages with a different company previously?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think some chippies are a little bit afraid, I guess, of being on wages or being with a company. Do you think it's a good place to start sometimes instead of just going out on your own?
I've only got like great memories of that. I worked for my last employer for 8 or 9 years, or something. They were unbelievable.
I learned a lot there as well.
Learned a lot. It was a great team of guys. I would model what I do a lot on like how we were treated, how we were supported. It was a great place to work. Okay. I was very fortunate in that sense. Yeah.
And was there anyone that you looked up to growing up that sort of, I guess, you know, you've ended up with your own business and you're sort of doing your own thing, but was there anyone that you looked at, and a mentor or someone that you looked up to?
I guess in terms of like starting a business, I probably just always just had that in the back of my mind to do it. And I thought, you know, I didn't want to like not do it and, you know, die wondering. Mm-hmm. But in terms of mentoring, I do speak with a lot of guys I worked for, in particular like the last employer that we worked for. There was quite a few of us that all worked there that have started our own businesses or have gone that. So I certainly use those guys as like a sounding board and, you know, speak to them quite a bit. So it's a good network there of guys that are
dealing with the same problems and the same
thing, whether it's a bigger scale or whatever, they're still sort of the same, the same issues. So we do have a good sounding board of guys that, you know, speak to and ask, you know, their opinions on things or where they are or things like that. So
How do you think that someone finds that kind of group of people, or if someone they feel like they don't have anyone to talk to about sort of their building problems, or, you know, where do you think they should go?
Yeah, another good question. I'm probably very fortunate that I've got good friends, close friends that I've known for a long time, that we do the same business. Mm-hmm. Maybe I have heard there's, you know, business groups out there, and I haven't ever looked into it, but I have heard of some other trades I've worked with, whether it was plumbers and electricians who were part of these like business groups where they would meet up, or, you know, might be online or something like that, but there might be a meeting once a month. And
I think there's some B&Is. I think there's those ones, sort of business networking. And,
that could be a good place, and, you know, to get involved in as well. Mm-hmm. I think they can be just to have guys there as a sounding board or listen, you know, to problems in your business or problems you're facing can be certainly be handy.
The other place that people can get their problems solved is through us.
You were going to say that.
We sort of pride ourselves on being able to be that sort of sounding board as well. And look, we can't solve everything, and we can't, you know, if ever I can't give the right answer or I'm not confident in what's happening, I will always get outside help. And I think being a source of truth and, you know, just not sort of waffling nonsense is very important. And especially when people are in crisis, they need someone or something that they can rely on. So I'm glad that we can sort of do that as well.
Yeah, of course.
And you've got your group of things, but I'd like to think that you'd still be able to come to us with anything else that's going on, or, you know, just even if you're excited about a new job that's coming up, you know, we can have a chat about what's happening, come out and see the guys on site and sort of spread the awareness of what we're all doing.
Yeah, that's right. And that goes back to having like a governing body, you know, we spoke about, you know, carpenters, you know, there was a gap there, the carpenters didn't have it. But yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I think for yourself, like why, obviously the fact that there wasn't that level of support, but why do you think it's so crucial to have something, you know, for carpenters and for carpenters alone?
There just is. I think we are the best trade, you know, for sure. And I think that there does need to be some support there for carpenters. There needs to be a governing body to champion for carpenters and, you know, just push our trade to the front. Yeah, for sure.
Is there anything else that you think Carpentry Australia or any other industry bodies out there could be doing to sort of further the trade or to give more support?
I think certainly like licensing. I know you guys, you know, spoken about that in the past, but I think if we could license, for chippies would be a big one. Because it might not be that everyone wants to be like a fully fledged builder, but just to have some licensing or some ticket there, or, you know, something there would be good.
It's definitely been in the pipework for quite some time, and it's a bit disappointing because we sort of had something very, very, very good sort of lined up right when COVID was hitting. I think it was April of 2020 when this thing was supposed to be rolled out, and then it just didn't happen because of all the lockdowns and all the sort of red tape. But you're right. I think it does need to be a licensed trade, and there needs to be that middle ground, that bridging gap between, you know, you finished your certificate 3, you know, and you might not want to be a builder, but we need something in between. We can't just have only qualified carpenters.
Yeah.
Because in different states, they've already got that. They've got the contractor's license in New South Wales, and in Queensland there's site supervising licenses. There's different stuff before a builder's license that gives you more street cred.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It allows you to do bigger jobs. So we are a little bit behind in that space for sure.
Yeah, I think anything that can help, for qualification and for carpenters is the way forward for sure.
And do you have any other advice that you can give for anyone that wants to get into commercial, or, you know, just any other sort of parting words for the younger guys out there?
Advice for commercial carpenters.
It's your bread and butter. Yeah.
Look, I have said this to like a couple of the younger guys in particular, like an apprentice we had that didn't stay with us. But it's a good, you know, I really think it's a good area to be in. You know, we don't work in the rain, and, you know, if it's too hot outside, generally it's all right inside. Like we do get good conditions, and we do end up working in some really cool places, and, you know, we do some one-off sort of, you know, features and things like that in the job. So I think if, you know, guys can stick with it, it's a great place to be. It's a great place to work, and you still end up with a really good skill set. You know, carpentry, can get a really good skill set out of it that can be transferable to, you know, many different things, not just carpentry, but, you know, I think in life you could probably transfer a carpenter's skill set to lots of different things.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And are you looking to expand the team maybe next year, or are you looking for maybe an apprentice or any other tradesman that might want to come and work with MCAP?
Yeah, we sure would take on a couple, some apprentices. I think that is, one thing I know I've spoken to you about it. Yeah, it's certainly one thing that, I'd like to do, because I feel like we do have a lot to offer in that space to train some guys or girls up. I think, we've got a lot to offer there, so it's certainly something that I would look at.
Where can everyone find you? Are you on any of the social medias? Have you got...
we do on Instagram, so it's MCAP_carpentry. On there, our phone number's on there as well, so they can...
Perfect. We'll link it all in there.
To us through there.
Yeah,
we have had a couple of people reach out to us through there, actually. Yeah.
Okay.
We have over the time.
I do find that the lead source, like doing it through socials, has actually been really, really handy.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of people that either find carpenters through there, or they find work through there, like, you know, different jobs that might be starting up. It's just the way of the world now. It's not all sort of just word of mouth or just phone calls. There's stuff you can actually find online.
Yeah. So, and they've found us. A couple of people, have certainly like sought us out and you know, directly messaged us. So
yeah. I guess before we go, is there one building myth or carpenter myth that you'd like to bust? You know, that gives you the shit you like. It's just not true. It's something that the world thinks, but it's just not. it's not true?
There might be. I think, you know, there's a conception that maybe the commercial guys don't work as hard as, you know, the residential guys. I'd like to bust that. I feel like, you know, that's not true.
Yeah.
I feel like we really do, you know, like, I think like all carpenters are working hard. I feel like all tradesmen are working hard regardless if it's residential or commercial. So I feel like if we could bust that one, I think, you know, we're all working hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a bit of healthy rivalry there. You know?
Yeah, I think there is. I think there probably always was like I think there always is. So, yeah.
Oh, perfect. Well, thanks for coming in and having a chat. And yeah, I think it's really important for us to sort of keep connecting with members and keep connecting with blokes like yourself. We run a great business, and you know, you've got great values, and you tend to, you know, you're really interested in all the stuff that we're doing and all the advocacy side of things, and you know, we wouldn't be able to do it without sort of blokes like yourself.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, big fella.
Cheers. All right.